Welcome to another episode of China Update, where I provide you with the most up-to-date political, economic, and geostrategic analysis on the world's number 2 economy. My name is Tony. Let's jump in.
Happy Monday, everybody. I hope you had a restful weekend and have a productive week ahead. There is no other way to say it. Direct investment into China has collapsed. According to official data from the State Administration of Foreign Exchange, published yesterday, Sunday, foreign businesses' direct investment into China in 2023, last year, was a net $33 billion. That is a 82% year-on-year drop and represents the lowest amount since 1993. In the years after the Tiananmen massacre. This underscores yet again just how pessimistic businesses and investors on balance were with China's outlook last year. The question for this year will be, will we see some recovery or will the situation remain poor? According to National Bureau of Statistics data, profits of foreign industrial firms in China dropped 6.7% in 2023, year-on-year. A closer look at the numbers released yesterday showed that investment fell in the third quarter of 2023 for the first time since 1998, with a turnaround to modest growth in Q4. These numbers should not be confused with the Ministry of Commerce data published earlier this year, which showed FDI in 2023 fell to a 3-year low. The latter numbers don't include reinvested earnings of existing foreign firms. So what is driving this? Regular viewers know the story all too well. Geopolitical tensions, especially between China and Washington, but also the general global order situation, poor economic performance at home, domestic political interference, and higher interest rates elsewhere. On that final point, we know that while advanced economies have been raising interest rates, Beijing has been cutting them to stimulate the economy. According to a German Economic Institute report published last week, direct investment into China by German companies reached a record of nearly 12 billion euros, approximately $13 billion in 2023. But this is the exception. US investment has been plunging, and a recent survey of Japanese firms in China demonstrated that most cut investment in 2023, and a majority don't have a positive outlook for 2024. Next up, a quick update related to US-China relations. Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi and US Secretary of State Antony Blinken have had another meeting, this time on the sidelines of the Munich Security Conference, and yet another sign that at least top US and Chinese officials are regularly talking to each other again. Over the weekend, the PRC Ministry of Foreign Affairs described the meeting as, quote, candid, substantive, and constructive, end quote, which touched on regional and global issues including Taiwan, the Ukraine war, the Middle East, and security on the Korean Peninsula. Just listing these topics reminds us of just how shaky the global order is as we move into 2024. The US State Department said in a readout that both sides are committed to maintaining open lines of communication. The Chinese readout made similar commitments to promoting dialogue in foreign policy, maritime affairs, artificial intelligence, and other areas. During the meeting, Wang reiterated Beijing's stance on Taiwan, that Washington must not interfere, and made the usual. Blinken emphasized maintaining peace and stability across the Taiwan Strait. The already tense Taiwan situation flared up somewhat, rhetorically at least, last week after Beijing's Taiwan Affairs Office condemned Taiwan's actions in chasing away a mainland Chinese fishing boat in its waters that resulted in 2 deaths. Blinken, during the meeting, also raised concerns over Beijing's, quote, support to the Russian defense industrial base, end quote, for the war in Ukraine. Wang Yi also called on the US to, quote, lift illegal unilateral sanctions against Chinese companies and individuals and stop unwarranted harassment and interrogation of Chinese citizens, end quote. Here referring to Beijing's accusation that at least 8 Chinese students have been, quote, harassed, interrogated, and deported by US authorities under so-called national security reasons since the end of November, End quote. All in all, though, the statements from both sides were very boilerplate and not too confrontational. For our purposes, too, what is important to note is that these talks between these two officials are becoming regular, a modest win for the erection of guardrails, the development of relationships between key senior officials, and hopefully a sign of some stability in what is a historically tense and dangerous bilateral relationship. We remember that the situation, of course, in 2023 on this front was far bleaker. Next up, we have one more update to cover. But just quickly, if you're enjoying today's episode, as always, it's a huge help if you can like and subscribe. It's just 2 clicks of the mouse, but it's a huge help for me and the channel. It's the only way the channel is going to grow on this platform. And for those who want to help keep the channel financially sustainable, I rely primarily on your support to keep going. Patreon and Buy Me a Coffee links are in the description below. Thank you so much, everybody, as always, for the ongoing support. Finally, for today, a Beijing-based startup, Orion Space, has set an ambitious timetable in China's race to develop reusable rockets, a key technological step in being competitive in the global industry for satellite launches. In December last year, Orion Space conducted its first launch of a single-use rocket and is developing the reusable Gravity 2 and expects the rockets made in flight to take place in late 2025 or early 2026. Chinese financial media outlet Caixin writes that other Chinese companies competing to achieve reusability include Beijing Interstellar Glory Space Technology Limited, a startup known as iSpace, which staged a test in December. Meanwhile, a subsidiary of state-owned China Aerospace Science and Industry Co. Limited last month conducted a vertical takeoff and landing test of its reusable Kuaizhou rocket. Reusable rockets, of course, is a technology pioneered by Elon Musk's SpaceX and is a key goal of many of these players. Caixin writes, quote, "While Chinese companies, including startups and state-owned enterprises, launched nearly 70 rockets last year, all of the vehicles were single-use. During that time, SpaceX had nearly 100 launches of its reusable rockets." End quote. As well as working on its reusable target, Orion Space last month launched its first sea-based rocket. The co-CEO in an interview explained to media that an offshore launch, quote, "can save a month of time and millions of yuan in logistics costs for each rocket. This is a significant improvement in business efficiency." End quote. The company has 3 to 5 rocket launches planned in 2025 and 5 to 8 for 2026 and wants to bring its frequency to 10 times a year in about 3 years' time to achieve annual revenue of 1 billion yuan, $140 million US. Space thus should be added to a growing list of advanced industries which China is pursuing. Whether it is able to catch up or surpass its rivals around the world is another question, and one we will watch closely here. Okay, that is today's episode of China Update. Thank you so much, everybody, for watching. Have a wonderful Monday, and I will see you all tomorrow.